Live across the World Wide Web. So welcome everyone to the Niagara Falls City School District Board meeting for April 25th. We have one presentation this evening, Mr. Petrozzi and members of the board, and we have an agenda review, and we have a voting meeting at 7 o'clock, just so everybody knows the lay of the land. But what we would like to do is, first of all, acknowledge Mr. Bass on the remote, correct? Mr. Bass, hello?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And we also have Mr. Consemi on the remote. Hello, Mr. Consemi.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Mr. Consemi. So we have 5 board members in attendance, 2 remote, and we're expecting the arrival of Mr. Pareto any moment. So that's the lay of the land on the board members. Just to give you a little bit of a anticipatory set, earlier in this year, Mr. Walton came and presented to us the school improvement plan from Cataract, and did an excellent job, and you got to see an elementary plan. It was followed up by the great and wondrous Mr. Zimmerman, who came with his team and did an outstanding job, seriously, an outstanding job presenting the Gaskill plan. And we wanted to give you the flavor of the Niagara Falls High School plan in about 7 short slides to round out the district school improvement plan. And I just wanted to make one comment about the plan before they present it to you. You obviously know how big that building is, 2,000 students. They're going to show you a slide that I was so impressed with. It is a slide that drills down to information to an individual student. So they're going to show you how they can profile right down to an individual student. And when you think of 2,000 students, that's a heck of a lot of drilling down into. And I was very, very impressed when Mr. Rotella and Ms. Villardo made their presentation to our team on behalf of the school. So I'm going to ask Ms. Villardo, our Chief Principal, to step forward with her team, Mr. Ruffalo, Mr. Rotella, and Mr. Ventry at the appropriate places, along with Ms. Rotella Zafuto, to chime in. And we've allocated about 25 to 30 minutes for this.
All right, good evening, and whoever put the microphone at my level, I appreciate you were ready.
It was probably Maria.
Yes, Wes.
Oh, it was Wes. He sized you up. I thought it was Maria. No comments beyond that. But.
It's ready for you next, Maria. All right, so good evening, and I'm happy to be here to present the Niagara Falls High School comprehensive education plan that we wrote last summer and have been implementing throughout the year. I also want to acknowledge 2 of our team members. Cherie Copeland and Frida Cowart helped write the plan and have stayed on the team throughout with the administrative team to help ensure that it's been implemented, monitored, reviewed, and that's made a big difference. So I want to acknowledge those 2 teacher leaders in our building. Am I driving, Mr. Graneri? Okay. So this is speaking of Ms. Cowart, she created this SF summary plan sheet. So it breaks down what's a lengthy document into a digestible summary of what our school plan is for this year. We have used this with both staff members and with families and students. So we'll start by walking through our 3 commitments. Commitment 1 has to do with data, organizing appropriate student data so that we can address every student's academic and social emotional needs. And our commitment for that is creating a data dashboard. And we did a macro, so it looks at the school as a whole. How many suspensions have we had by month, by gender, by race? How many students have been absent each month? What are our course failure rates? That type of thing. So that's our macro data. And then we also did micro, which is the student tracker that Mr. Laurie talked about that you'll get an opportunity to see in just a minute. Our second commitment is our social emotional commitment, which is a requirement. So ours was fostering trusting relationships between students and adults and increasing relevance in school as it relates to their beliefs, interests, and identities. Niagara Falls High School has 2,111 students as of today, so that can be a very big challenge to make school feel welcome and inviting and inclusive for all of our learners. We've got such a diverse group of students. So trying to make the high school feel warm and friendly to kids was really what this second commitment was about. And I think coming out of COVID and coming out of the challenges we saw this year, commitment to was really, really important to us. And some of the areas that we looked at there are multi-tiered systems of support. So if a student is expressing, elevated risk in social emotional well-being, if they are getting into trouble, if they are not showing up to school, what are the things that we have in place? What interventions do we have at each of the tiers in order to address that? A student health newsletter, which Mrs. Sharella has worked with her journalism class to produce this year. The big one, supportive or trusted adult initiative, that's really been kind of a cornerstone of what we looked at this year. A book club where we can study together and talk about issues. Social media, that's something that we've really tried to increase our presence, because trusting relationships aren't just between the adults and the students in the building, they're with the community and with our families, and making sure that the community knows that the high school is a supportive place and that we are we want to reach all of our kids. And then the cultural fair, which is coming up this Saturday. We got a little lucky on this one. It was in our plan, and it was also in the district plan, and Mrs. Capone has kind of led the way on that, but it's going to be a great event. And then our third commitment focuses more on our academics, and that is to foster relevant, inclusive instructional learning environment that cultivates high expectations, rigorous, actively engaging instruction in order to support student growth. We want our students achieving academically. That's really our primary goal, so we can get them on time graduation and set up for their future. And our major areas of commitment here, continued development of our PS2 career pathways. That's what we're doing, what we offer, making sure that we offer relevant coursework for our students that are going to help them in their future. We looked at teacher channel and professional learning opportunities where teachers can learn from each other and share engaging strategies. And then the multi-tiered system of supports focusing on academics. So when what we have to offer isn't working for a student, what do we have in place to help support them? So that is an overview of this year's SEP.
And if you notice the commonality between Cataract, Gaskill, and Niagara Falls High School, we all talk about commitments. And each of our schools has 2 or 3 commitments. One is an academic commitment, and one is a social emotional commitment. So those are the common threads. And then some schools chose to add a different one. In this case, the high school really focused on using and displaying data right down to the student level.
Yeah.
Thanks, Cheryl.
And so that's the area that we'll start with. Diving a little bit deeper, we've done some reflection on things that we've done well so far in reaching our commitment to organizing and sharing data, and some areas that we're looking to grow in as we move into next school year. So we have been able to, and on both a macro level and a micro level, pull and look at data every month. We do that in a couple of different ways. This is one of our wins, that we've been very consistent in this dedication to pulling and sharing and using data. So we share it with faculty every month via our faculty meetings. On a monthly or sometimes bi-weekly basis with our counselors and with our START team members, our support team, we are looking at the data at both the individual student level and at a big level. What the data has showed us this year, and really, it's hard to compare data from this year to last year or the year before, just because this year is different. It's kind of our fresh start compared to the last few years of COVID, and then last year just coming out of COVID. So we really see this as a baseline year where we've gotten the data consistently. We've certainly seen improvement in terms of our behavior referrals going down. A couple of other areas we see, and we attribute our behavior referrals going down to our PASS and ATS programs. These are 2 of our most highly utilized interventions. A2S is alternative to suspension. We have a PSA, Brittany Hutchinson, who works with our deans. And so these are things such as safety plans, an offense that maybe in the past would have been a suspension, such as vaping, where we bring the student in and do a vaping cessation program, where we organize peer mediations, youth court, all of those types of things. And to date, we have had 323 students work through our ATS program to either avoid suspension, or in some cases when they do return from a suspension, to make sure that they transition back to the building well and they are not being suspended again. ALC, which we have the wonderful Kyle McGovern running this year, Alternative Learning Center, and that's really what we want it to be. If you have to be out of class, we still want you learning. And we've had 2,032 visits to that room throughout the year. And so that's another place where we're keeping kids in school rather than an out-of-school suspension. For PASS, we have 60 students currently on PASS, and PASS is our positive approach to student support. It's essentially like having a coach in the building, an advocate in the building. So we take students who are high tier 2, low tier 3 in terms of either behavior, attendance, or academic needs, and they get assigned one of our PASS team members, and the PASS team members track them for their attendance, their behavior, and their academic success. Some data I have to share on that is 53% of the classes PASS students take, they showed improvement from the 20 to 30 week marking period. And you have to understand these are kids who got to PASS because they are high tier 2 or low tier 3. So they're kids who typically haven't been super successful. So I think the fact that we're having 53% of them showing improvement in 53% of their classes shows that those PASS team members are making good, ground with them. They also, of the students on PASS, they had 102 credit recoveries to finish, and we have had 62% completion rate. They do have until the end of the school year, so the fact that 62% of PASS students have completed their required credit recovery is a good number. Just a note on credit recovery. We used to, when a student failed a class, they had to retake the whole thing the next year. And what we found is that brought them out of cohort. So they were repeating 9th grade year, and it took them off course to their 4-year graduation rate. So we started with credit recovery, which is completely allowable by the regulations, something a lot of other districts were already doing, and we just hadn't started it yet. And that plays into the summer school. We used to send students to BOCES summer school where they could only take 2 classes. And if they didn't show up for the first 3 days, BOCES would drop them. Mm-hmm. By doing credit recovery ourselves, both during the school year and in the summer, I think that's been a lot to contribute to our increase from 67% to 83% in graduation rate, is we've got control over that now. And it gives kids a lot of flexibility. They can either do it in the summer, they can do it during the school year. Some of them have time scheduled during their school day, a credit recovery study hall, where the expectation is they are focusing on that. So that's talking about some of our wins this year. In terms of data, something that we want to continue to work on, pulling data for 2,111 students is a big task. And I am so lucky that I've got a bunch of tech nerds at the high school because they are all very good at pulling data. Without that, I don't know what we would do. It's a big task each month. So trying to find ways that we can more quickly get data, make it user-friendly, share it with more staff members is something that we'll look to expand upon next year. And then really, we've got this data and we see kids who are, and I'll show you the screen in just a minute, who are red and yellow. What interventions do we have for them? Right now we know PASS is working well. We know our alternative to suspension. We know PTE has made a big difference. What else do we have, and what else can we develop so that we make sure that our PASS rates are better and our attendance rates are better? Those are 2 areas we really need to work on. We've also seen through our data that our students who are on remote, either because of anxiety, school phobia, or because they just aren't functioning well in that big of a building for behavior reasons, they're not doing very well. We need to find a better way to reach those students. That's kind of I think our next frontier. And then we also see through our data that there are mental health needs, and how else and how better can we proactively address that. One area there is we are adopting an SEL curriculum, so it'll be a tier 1, every student gets it, and it'll teach coping strategies, it'll teach those skills that our kids really need, conflict resolution, what to do when you have a problem. So I think that will be helpful. For remote, we're hoping we can find ways to meet kids in the community and get them their remote instruction in a better way so that they are engaged and they stay connected to the school more.
I can't repeat this enough, but the 67% graduation rate of 5 years ago, moving to 83.5, with the understanding that our white rate of 84% and our black-brown rate of 82% is a significant improvement. My expectation for the high school team, teachers, and school is that graduation rate continues to have an 8 in front of it, moving towards a 9, and the second number is higher than 3. So I want to see continuous improvement from 83.5% to the next level, and that's what these programs will allow us to do.
Absolutely.
I think, is your next slide the tracking?
Yep, so the next slide is the student tracker.
This is really cool, I think.
Yeah, so this is what we use to look at individual students. So I took a screenshot of it. If we were on the live document, you would see that there are 2,111 rows. Each one is an individual student. So the first column shows their ID number, their second is their grade, their team if they're on a 9th grade team or if they're in PTE. It shows their track, just again helps us. If they track A, it means they're in the regular building during the day. Track B is that they're remote. Track C is that they're PTE. So just those kind of identifying factors, their counselor, their dean, their past team member. And then moving into the columns that are red, yellow, and green, the first kind of group is attendance. And it shows their current attendance per quarter, and then it shows their cumulative attendance. And Ed and Brian are both really good with spreadsheets, so they have this figured out that whatever number gets pulled into there, if it's above a certain threshold, it shows up as red. So the kids that we really need to worry about with their attendance, and we use 2 days per month, which is the measure of chronic absenteeism. And then the other column, like I said, shows their current. So you can see there some kids who are red and then turned yellow. That means they may have missed a lot recently. Overall, the year they're moderately concerning. And then moving on to the next two columns that shows the incidents. So these are behavior referrals. Again, it's current, so the current quarter, and then it compares to the incident for the year. I think we have 2 referrals per marking period as our threshold, or 2 is red, 1 is yellow, and 0 is green. We'll talk about that in just a minute. That's extra special. So again, you can see, we can monitor kids who are having behavioral issues in the building. And then the last 2 columns, kind of the smaller columns there, are courses failed. And that shows it per quarter, and we update this every couple of weeks. And then the second one is for the school year. And looking at data this way, first of all, allows us to kind of drill down to individual kids. It helps us make sure kids don't slip through the cracks. Sometimes there are kids who are kind of quietly failing. They're not in our faces, they're not in the hallways causing a problem, but you may not have noticed that in a building our size that they've missed 5 days this marking period. So Ed, who works most closely with the counselors, uses this when he sits down and reviews students. So it's not just who's come into my office, it's like this is your caseload and here are some kids that we really need interventions for. The other thing it does, and it's a nice graphic, is it shows us areas of need as the building, right? So I think the high school gets a lot of attention for behavioral issues, but if you look at this, you can see failures in attendance standing out as areas of need. And you can see a lot of correlation too. The kids who miss more school are failing more classes. And so that's kind of our next challenge. And thinking about attendance interventions, we have a lot of work to do with that. I think one area we've always held eligibility for academic and for behavior. How can we hold students accountable to be eligible for extracurriculars based on their attendance? That really motivates kids. They want to play sports. They want to come to dances. They want to participate in school things. We believe that doing that from the start of next school year can really help cut down the number of kids we have chronically absent. And therefore, they will be doing better academically when they come to school more. And then getting into the purple columns there. So those last 4 columns are the Basque BAS screener, which we issued in the fall to all students. And it shows if they're elevated or at risk for mental health concerns. What the purple means is that they may, help me out with this, Brian?
You have to interpret that with caution.
Interpret with caution.
The way they answer questions, we have not been consistently positive feedback. So it makes us go to a deeper dive and maybe just look at it a little closer level.
Yeah. And so it's interesting. You can see kids who are elevated, who are yellow or red on the right side of this, but are green across. That means that they may have some underlying, but they're coping okay, that they're still, coming to school, they're still staying out of trouble, they're still doing academically well. I think sometimes those kids, though, we need to pay attention to, right? Just because they're performing okay in school, they still have some underlying concerns that could manifest themselves, or that we need to be careful that we're reaching out to those students as well. Overall, I will say for the BASC score, we've got 66% of our students who fall within the normal range, 24% who are elevated, and 10% who are highly elevated. And ideally, we would like that first number, 66%, to be a little bit higher, and that second number to be a little bit lower, just so that we've got more of a manageable number of kids who we can reach through our counseling services. And I do think implementing a school-wide SEL curriculum, continued work with our champion team, things like that will help us to do that. I think coming out of COVID every year also helps that.
This is illustrative of how they've drilled into a specific student around the key areas of attendance, behavior, class failures or success, and then a independent screener to make sure that we aren't missing anyone and that no one falls through the cracks. And obviously, the goal is to have a full green page.
Correct.
And you can see that this is how we can hold everyone in the school accountable to making sure somebody is attached to all kids, but especially those with elevated levels.
Absolutely.
So I was impressed that they took 2,100 kids and did this and
Yeah.
really drilled into who needs what. And this is how they propose their interventions.
Yep. Yes.
Ask this the right way. Is this just one page, or has this page been made up?
No, it is not a made up. What I did was I wanted to get good data, and so our BASC, unfortunately, we don't get every kid to take, so I kind of filtered by that. Otherwise, it's totally random. And actually, it's a clickable link if you wanted to see the whole document.
No, let me ask you, I'm guessing there's maybe 40 names on that page. You got about 50% are in to have some red. Is that characteristic of the whole data?
I would say so.
You follow my
Yep.
question?
Yep, I would say so.
So you guys got your hands full.
We do have our hands
Yeah,
full.
I get it.
That's my point, and I'm not
Yes.
even looking at the yellows.
Right. Yes, we have our hands full.
Wow. Now, how often is this how often do we look at this?
Yeah, every 2 weeks. We shoot for every 2 weeks. Every 2 to 4 weeks.
Do we touch every one of these children?
Yes.
Students?
Yes.
That's amazing.
It is. It's a lot of work, and like you said, that's why we need to do better let's look at attendance and the red attendance. We need to do better tier 1 interventions so that we reduce that red to more yellows and greens. Then we've got the resources to really target the students who are really at risk. So things like the eligibility policy, we hope will capture some of the kids, who maybe would come to school more often. Looking at course failures, how can we offer more relevant classes so that pass rates are better? The good thing is on the course, like I said, with the credit recovery opportunity, kids are they always have another chance to pass that class. But obviously, the more that are successful the first time, it helps. It's less work on them in the long run. It's less resources for us. But, we do have interventions for all of these things. It's just, it's time and work.
Now, if I could ask another question, anyone else? I don't want to tie up everyone. I'm looking at the attendance, and the attendance in red transfers into failed courses.
Right.
Do we take a lot of those reds and turn them yellow and green? Are we being successful?
Yes, I would say we do. Yes,
Okay.
we do. It's hard, and sometimes we can get the coursework to yellows and greens, and the attendance still isn't great. That's our biggest challenge.
Well, I'm
right
looking,
now.
I don't see, except for 2, I don't see any green attendance except for 2 that translate into a failed red,
Right.
which is
Right,
direct correlation.
Correct.
You come to school, you'll pass.
Right.
right.
And that's why attendance is going to be our number 1 focus for next year. It needs to be. That's our biggest challenge right now.
Just in the spirit of time, this is just to illustrate how they know someone is responsible, a trusted adult for 2,111 kids.
Correct.
So, I know you want to move on to the next commitment.
So
Wait, no,
that was.
No, wait, Ms. Dunn
Okay.
has a, is it for Mr. Rotella or the whole group?
All right, thank you. While you're talking about students, it came to my attention from someone in the community that there were 2 students that were bragging to them that they were on honors and high honors in the Pathway to Excellence program.
Yes.
So when I heard about it, I told them I would mention their names at the board
All
meeting,
right.
but I think I forgot.
We have them.
Give me 1 minute.
Chester Bradley and
And
Jessica Griggs.
Griggs,
Yep.
right.
Jessica was messaging me over spring break. When is the high honor roll list coming out? Because I made it for my first time ever.
So make
Yeah.
it known that I did mention their name.
All right, we will make sure
That's
they know.
pretty, but that's pretty impressive.
I mean, it's 2, there's thousands.
Yep.
But these 2, I guess, told somebody how proud they were of themselves.
Yeah. And we do have a lot of success stories from PTE, past, just kids who, I mean, we had a kid who hadn't come to school in a year and a half who re-entered in January of this year and is now passing every class. So while it looks bleak, we've got 4 years at least with these kids and we never give up on them. We know that some kids get to that point at a different time and that it's our job to find a program that works for them.
Right. And I think if you go back 6 years, you'll find our dropout rate was 25%. If you go back 1 year, you'll find out it was 7%.
Yeah.
Now, that's 7% too much, I know.
It is.
But you can't have a 90% graduation rate with a 25% dropout rate.
Correct.
We've got to reduce that 7% to 2%.
Yes.
Or 0, but 2 or 3%. And that's how we'll get into the 90s in graduation.
In the early intervention that spreadsheet allows us, where we're following it, we don't look at it in June for the first time, we're looking at it throughout the year, so hopefully intervening early to help with the problem.
The other thing, to Mr. Petrosi's point about there's 40 pages of that, and the attendance, this is after 32 weeks
Right.
of school, so we're well into this data now.
Yep.
So it may have turned over the years.
Yes,
We're really
and yes.
getting to the end here, so.
We'll see more green at the end. Kids
Hopefully
get
see
caught
more
up.
green.
Our teachers are really good about being flexible and helping kids get caught up too, which is nice.
Do we have any data that the habitual reds and absenteeism, what they did in middle school and grade school?
I mean, we have it. It's probably not as organized as that
No,
is, but
I'm
we
saying,
certainly
is
can
it
look in
the-
Power
is it
School.
Is
It's-
it the same students?
It's typically the students that we have the most run with, when we really do a deeper dive, look at past grades and past school performance, it's similar.
It is. Yeah, there's patterns of behavior. Right.
Or a previous teacher was shocked that something happened. And when that does happen, it's usually a major life event.
Correct.
ACE or a traumatic event that's happened, and then we have the resources and support systems to help those students.
Yeah, we've been reviewing students, this week, and yeah, it's like, wow, that kid came to school all of ninth grade year, and then, they've stopped recently, they're 10th grade, or something happened. Like, we need to figure that out. But a lot of them are patterns of behavior, unfortunately, but you never know. It's always a time.
You've spent a lot of time on this already, so you want to go through this rather quickly.
Yes. So this commitment just talked about trusting relationships. I think this is the area we've made the most growth. In the fall, when we administered our trusted adult survey to our students, we had 74% who could identify a trusted adult in our building. When we did it in March, we've increased to 84%. We've also shared some statistics there about how we're reaching our families on social media via the family newsletter. We worked with Open Buffalo this year to try to increase acceptance, diversity. We worked with TEL, who teaches more about multiculturalism. So that, I think we've made growth in this area. Next year, we'd like to increase. We want students to have a voice. DECA is a program we're bringing, expanding F-Bites, our school store, and I think our overnight experiences. There aren't a lot of sticks out there anymore, a lot of you have to come to school because, CPS doesn't have the capacity to help. So we really need to create carrots. We got to create, and we have to market ourselves for what students want. And things like overnight experiences, job shadows, those are what kids are interested in coming to school for. I would say the next thing, we've gotten more positive relationships in the building. The building's a nicer place to be than it has been in the past. How do we leverage that now into attendance and academic success? It's not enough just to love them. We have to love them and teach them. So I think that's kind of our next horizon. And then our third commitment is more of our academic one. And again, this is talking about our rigor and our relevance. We want our students to be challenged, and we want them to be interested. And of course, New York State requires, certain subjects, but we've also been looking to expand our elective offerings in line with our career pathways. So you can see there for our PS2, which is our career pathways program, we have nearly 8,000 hours logged of students being outside of the building, mostly outside of the building, some inside the building, engaged in, getting ready for their careers. Next year, we need to expand those opportunities more to PTE and to certain special ed populations. Again, that will help with attendance too. If they're engaged and they find what they're doing at school relevant, they will come more often. We do have 156 current PTEC students or applicants coming into the program. We're on our third cohort. We do keep walkthrough data, so what's going on in classrooms. We see, teachers trying to engage students. We did launch our construction trades program this year, which has been successful. And we've taken some trips, including Disney in New York City, which are learning field trips for our students. Moving forward, I know Derek's done a great job on student shadow walks. What is it like to be a student at Niagara Falls High School? The adults experiencing that and helping to continue to increase engagement. Teachers walking through each other. We are our best resources. What can we do to share? How can we make the building more collaborative, especially a building that size? You could go weeks without seeing somebody unless you try. And we are constantly re-examining our BOCES offerings to see what we can replicate in-house. We find that our students do best when they are with us, especially our students who come with some challenges. We know them. We will give them many chances at BOCES. That doesn't always happen. It does depend sometimes on the program, but we just think that we can do it, and we like to own our students. We like to keep them with us and find what's going to work for them. And I have I don't know if I can do this from here. I might need help from you. Just oops, that went too far. It's a video, Mr. Graneri. So this is this is a world premiere. We are launching this PS2 promotional video. What we're finding, again, to try to engage the community and our parents into what we're offering. This is a 1 minute and 17 second overview video of all of the PS2 offerings we have done. Not all of them, most of them. On that note, I'll just add too, we have our annual partnership dinner coming up on June 6th, so you'll all be getting invitations to that. That's where we invite our college and career partners in to celebrate our seniors.
And it's important because then you unveil how many college credits the Niagara Falls High School students have earned while in high school. And I really feel that that's one of the great untold stories of that high school.
Yep.
The kids that have received 1 year of college while they're still in high school, or half a year. It helps their parents, it helps put things in the kids' wallets in terms of college credits, but it really sets them apart, and I think it's a great dinner to celebrate those kind of achievements. And usually you bring back a former student who is the guest speaker, and it's really good.
Yep. Mr. Ruffalo is working on that as we speak.
So I'm really proud of a lot that you saw this evening. I wanted you to have a flavor from pre-K all the way to 12, how all of the schools have commitments. Underneath the commitments, they have objectives, activities, and goals, and that the template is the same, and that the resolutions that you support always are resources to support commitment 1, 2, or 3 of every school. And that's why we bring the resolutions to you. So there's a connection about what we do at the board and how it translates into what happens in a school. And we've been able to give you a 12 to pre-K look. And the good news is there's going to be very few tweaks. So the staff, the parents, the community, the board, these commitments will go on and on and on. And my advice to the principals is I don't want to change these commitments too much. I think Ms. Villardo indicated she knows that out of those commitments, attendance is the one that they really have to focus on next year, as do many other schools. So I want to tell you that all of you, your entire team, I'm pleased. It's been a good year. I know you've got your challenging months coming up, not in terms of kids, but because there are proms and graduations and celebrations, and it's a hard time, not to mention the very important Regents exams.
Yes.
So, we know the effort you put behind that and the work you do, and I'm most impressed and most pleased with that student tracker down to the individual student level. So if anyone asks, how is Joe Jones doing, you should be able to pull that up in a minute's notice and say, this is where he's at, who's his interventionist, who's his trusted adult, who's helping him work. So
That's right.
I thank you, Cheryl, for your leadership. I thank the team for your collaborative work. Much more to be done, but we're heading in the right direction, and I don't know if the board has any other questions. Great job.
All right, and I'd just like to thank you all for your support. Without you, we couldn't be making the grounds and the gains that we have, and will continue to make.
And I'm going to ask you that famous question I ask you, how is the cohort doing? Because you know the cohort means the graduation rate.
Right, yep, we are meeting, we've met with counselors throughout this week. We'll have a more clear answer by the end of the week. We've got 3 counselors left to meet with.
Okay.
But we're looking good.
Okay. Yeah, she doesn't want to tip it off too early.
That's right.
She doesn't want to tip it off too early, but
Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you for all of you coming. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and we do have a couple of highlights that I'm going to share about Niagara Falls High School in a minute when we get into the formal part of the meeting about your scholar athletes, about a student who Ms. Villardo told me today won a $20,000 scholarship today. Incredible story there. There's a couple of other things that I'm going to announce during my report about the high school that just are pointing in the right direction. So we appreciate you. Mr. Petrozzi, members of the board, the only other agenda item we have, because you are being asked to vote this evening, is to review the agenda that you're going to be asked to vote on in 47 minutes. And I want to make sure that from the personnel to the resolutions, you have no questions, you have any concerns, and that you're completely at ease or not at ease with any of these items, that these 11 resolutions and any personnel that Maria will present to you, so that we can give you, comfortability in your vote. Because this is kind of an untoward meeting, because usually we have 2 weeks prior to, but tonight we don't for some various and sundry reasons. So I'm happy to go through some of this, and then if you want to pull back for 1 or 2 of them, we can. Is that okay, or would you like to proceed in a different way? Go through it? Okay. So, Ray, thank you. If you'd scroll up. At 7 o'clock, we are presenting, and Mr. Contento's running a little bit late, but our administrative team is here. Jaden Crumpler and his family are coming. He's the 126-pound wrestling champion from Niagara Falls High School. I think he will be coming in just to give everybody a little bit of advance notice, and those watching at home. He will be arriving at the same time Mr. Pareto is, so there will be a wrestling match right in front of the podium, Pareto versus Jaden Crumpler for the ultimate belt. But he's coming. Scroll up, Ray. There are no bids this evening. The regular budget status report and all those things. There are 5 short-term contracts, and I want to go through them all with you now so that you have comfortability in them. The first one is for Rachel Schneider, a licensed behavioral analyst. She is, we need to hire her for a special education student who we need an outside evaluation on. And that's a as-needed basis, not to exceed 8 hours, but that is to meet the needs of a special education student. Numbers 2 and 3 are being paid for by an F code. They are offerings through the Teacher Resource Center. One is Ann Kent, and she's done book studies before. And then, of course, Carrie Sino has done see-through math. Those are courses that are offered through the TRC, and the F code aligns with payment from the TRC. The final 2 are for Mr. Zimmerman's school. They're sending students from Gaskill to Washington, D.C. And this isn't money that's coming out of any of your codes. This is fundraised money and parent contribution money. And how many students are you sending this year, Derek?
It's about 96.
So 96 Gaskill students will be visiting Washington, D.C. On the 17th, 18th, and 19th. We just have, usually it's Maria Massaro who looks at the contracts to make sure that everything is in a good place for those trips to Gaskill. But the last 2 are not board dollars, they're fundraised dollars and parent contributed dollars for the 96 or so Gaskill students going to Washington, D.C. Those are the 5 short-term contracts for the month. Moving on, unless there's questions, we have Head Start, the usual reports. Let me take a moment to tell you about 601. 601, next Tuesday is our next meeting. You know, we moved the meeting to Tuesday. We have 3 public tasks to handle during that meeting. It was supposed to be the 4th, it's now the 2nd. At 6:30, we have to have a public hearing on the school safety plans, which have changed very little. Very little. We'll show you that next week. At 7 o'clock, Becky and Julie, who are upstairs doing a forum with the parents, have to have a public hearing on the budget. And at 7:15, we are pretty confident that we're going to ask you to vote on 3 resolutions. The 3 resolutions are, and you'll get this from Judy on Wednesday, the 3 resolutions are 2 contracts for bidders that we opened today. We're doing ARP work on heating and cooling in many schools, as you know, from Niagara Falls High School to Bond to Kelfis. And today we opened the bids. We did very well. The apparent low bidders both came in under our estimates. Tomorrow and Thursday they will be descoped, both for HVAC and right now, because it was done publicly, the apparent low bidder is DV Brown, but they have to be descoped. And the apparent low bidder in electrical was CIR, two somewhat local, reputable firms. In order to get that action moving, because we have a deadline of September 30th next year, we're pushing it ahead and asking you to vote for it. But I'll give you more information on that. There is also one other resolution we're going to put on there. We have $20,000 remaining in our vehicle purchase, and there is a $20,500 piece of equipment that Earl is recommended that we purchase, and we want to get that going so that we can close that vehicle purchase bond out completely. No, what is it, Earl?
It's a UTV.
That's okay. It's a UTV, but it's a little bit more of a UTV than what we typically purchase for our fields. It's being purchased for both the security team as well as the grounds team. It will do 25 miles an hour. I'm currently waiting for the certificate of origin because we're going to put plates on this so that our safety and security director can use it from building to building throughout the city, should it be necessary.
So, Mr. Del Porto needs his own UTV.
Do we still have the vehicle for transporting handicapped people from
Yes, we do.
venues?
We do, and we have a
And
new.
that's in good shape
It's
still?
in good shape. Didn't we get a new one?
No.
No, we didn't get a new one.
No, we, remember, the one that we purchased was not able to be retrofitted into an actual school bus as it
No,
would
he's,
have
he's,
needed
No,
to be?
no.
no.
I'm sorry, I
He's
missed.
talking about a UTV type.
Vehicle for athletic fields, so
Yes,
for the
sir.
parking lots, so
Yes.
some of the grandparents that are handicapped or handicapped
Yes.
people can be
Yeah,
transported to the
We do
fields.
have it. It's in good shape.
It's good shape?
Yep.
We have one now. We have another one on order that's even better.
Okay.
And it should be here hopefully sometime the 1st of May, or September, pardon me, 1st of September.
So we have a good one coming and no, this is only the UTV for Mr. Chief Del Porto, who, needs air conditioning and, a coaster and everything like that. Yeah, sirens and red lights. But we could also use it for Earl's ladies and gentlemen out there when he's not using it. That's the reason for the special meeting. Now, the only thing I will tell you is if we de-scope and have any issues that I'm not satisfied that have been cleaned off on the de-scoping, something was forgotten, what have you, I'm going to pull this item and move it to the 17th. I'm not going to rush it, but I'd like to get those contracts going. I'm pretty comfortable with those two bidders that I told you about just a moment ago because they've been in our district, they've walked the project, but BCC tomorrow has to de-scope them thoroughly. 602 is the code of conduct and the public hearing that evening at 6:30. 603 is to file the safety plans. 604 is to file the safety plans. 605 is for you to approve your NISBA representative of David Lowry. He wrote you a letter, and Judy formed that into the shape of a resolution. 606 is to appoint 3 board members. This is to appoint 3 board members to the BOCES board. Our seat on the BOCES board is up next year. This is for 3 other district representatives. It's in the resolution. I can't recall where they're from. 607 is for your approval or not on the BOCES budget. Just by way of information, the BOCES budget proposed $36,768,000, $36,768,070, and our contribution is $9.8 million of that. We're 26% of that budget. That is up to you as to how you vote or not vote on that. 608 is an amendment on the polling sites. Judy, anything there? 11 to 8, anything on that?
It's really just belts and suspenders on the fact that we've changed the public hearing from May 4th to May 2nd.
Okay. 610 is an agreement with the Board of Elections about the voting machines. Anything there, Judy, that...
Nothing unusual, nothing untoward.
609, remember on the 17th, you have a meeting at 7 and then a meeting at 8 to certify the election results and the budget. That's what that one is. 611, and Becky is here. Wonderful. Hi, Beck. We have been using Aries Transportation for the transportation of students when we cannot get buses. We have actually and honestly exceeded the amount of money in our original contract with Aries. Is that correct, Becky?
That's correct. The original contract, I believe, was $200,000, and we have already gone past that. And they service a very specific group of students, though, with a lot of high needs. So.
And that is where First Student has not been able to accommodate. So we're asking to allow, because we have to get those children to school, we're asking that you approve an additional amount of money that we have in the budget to keep using Aries to transport kids, special needs kids, outside of the school district.
Correct.
611, you had our drinking fountain guy. We're down to 2 final drinking fountains, one at LaSalle and one at, of course, Miss Buckman wants a special bottle filler at her school. So one at Kelfis and one at LaSalle. This, however, is the payment to MLP, which is the bidder, of $11,195 for the work that they've done to this point, putting in drinking fountains. They're down to 2 remaining, and we will be holding about 3% of the retention on them, Richard? 5%. So after they install, this is a payment for the work they've done of $11,000 and change. After they install Kelfis's and LaSalle's bottle filler, we will then pay them for the rest of the work, and I believe we're very satisfied with their work. And if Earl, Becky, and Richard tell me, we'll release their retainage, and that will close that project out. So that's for drinking fountains, and we're asking you to allow us to pay MLP, which has been a very good vendor for us. These are policies for Head Start, right? We need to remove these. We haven't done these yet?
They were tabled at the last meeting.
Okay, you tabled those at your last meeting, 30 days. We've had no comments on them. This is just a requirement of Head Start to remove them from the table and vote on them so that we can put them in our Head Start binder. If you scroll up just a little more, there's the next meetings, May the 2nd. On May 2nd, the majority of the meeting will be an executive session around legal action of the Child Victims Act. But we do have to come out of that for the public hearing on safety plans and the public hearing on the budget, and then hopefully to vote on those 3 issues. That's really the tenor and amount of work that will be done on May 2nd. On May 17th, we have to fill in what we need. But don't forget, May 17th, we start at 5:30 and we statutorily accept the results at 8 o'clock. So that's a longer meeting, and we'll fill in the topics there. Members of the board, those are the resolutions that we're asking you to vote on this evening. Those are the short-term contracts that we're asking you to vote on this evening. I'm happy to entertain any questions before I ask Ms. Massaro to come before you to discuss personnel. Thanks. Maria, would you grace us and wow us with your information about personnel?
We have a personnel report, and we could start with the classified report for this evening. We have 3 retirements listed there for you, a secretary 1 and 2 classroom associates, one at Blaine Bond and one at Maple Avenue School. We have a resignation of a general repairer in Earl's department, and then we have the individuals listed for their leaves of absence, beginning at the top of page 2 of 6. A temporary appointment of a cleaner in the middle of page 2 of 6. And then on page 3 of 6, we begin having leaves of absence. Those are, you'll notice, most of those are personal days that were in the vacation time. A couple of FMLAs and 1 medical without pay. Then we have several change of status going from probationary to permanent, and some additional hours listed on page 5 of 6 for 1 employee at the Bleneva Bond Primary School. Does anybody have any questions regarding the classified report? All right. I'm sorry? 11. Yes. Yes, sir. All right, moving on to the certificated report. With the wrong date in the corner, but no, it's correct. I'm sorry, I thought I had the wrong date, excuse me. The retirement of an instructional coach district-wide, the resignation of a school psychologist who was at Cataract Elementary School. Then you'll see we have a regular substitute appointment listed there for a pupil service assistant who's on leave. 2 conversions,
Maria.
60-day conversions, yes, sir?
Yeah, I have a question on that.
Absolutely.
On 5,
Yeah.
first, well, on both the salary part, that would be for the whole year? That's not what, how long have they been working? I would rather see it in a daily rate.
Oh, I understand what you're saying, I think. So
Because
that
that's
would
not-
have been.
I don't know how long they worked. I know it wasn't a whole year, and they're not going to get that much for the whole year.
No,
correct?
they're only going to get from the time of the effective date through their conversion.
Okay.
For the individual who is in at 79th Street, that conversion will continue from January 30th through June 30th, because that teacher will be out the balance of the year. For the person at Gaskill Prep School, that assignment has already ended. So the assignment was from January 4th through March 31st. Okay, so they are not paid that full amount, they're only paid the amount for the time period that they worked at that rate. Okay? Okay. Leave of absence. Those are listed on the bottom of page 2 and the top of page 3. Then we have some TRC director training and some per diem and Schedule B work. As you get through to page 5 of 6, we have some spring coaching positions that we're placing in front of you this evening, and that's the conclusion of the certificated report. Does anybody have any additional questions? Thank you, Judy. All right, thank you.
That was exciting, spellbinding, edge-of-the-seat reporting, Maria. Really, I just want to thank you really very much. And we did want to thank you for the fire suppression system, too. That you're members of the board that are on remote, and those are the resolutions, the personnel, and the protocol for the remainder of the evening. I have nothing else at this point. I do have updates, or if we need to meet
Yeah, we need an executive session.
for one,
One item.
we do, because we have 22 minutes, I'm sure we could do this. We do need an executive session for a contract negotiation. There will be no action taken coming out of it. And that's the only reason that we're going into it. And we won't need to, we should be able to conclude it and not need to do this after the meeting's over. So if that's okay with you, Mr. Petrosi, that would be the reason why.
Yes. And we'll take a vote on that, and if we get it done earlier, then you can go over,
I'll go through my reports, some of my reports.
yeah, when we come back.
Yes, sir.
That way we're at,
Yes, please.
please.
Thank you.
We'll be back by 7.
How are you?
Thank you, everyone. We'll now have a prayer by Mrs. Dunn. Oh, I'm sorry. Please stand.
Loving and gracious God, we thank you for allowing us to meet today under your presence and guidance. Help us to be wise in decisions we make tonight for the continued success of our district. Lord, in the midst of troubled times, we pray your healing spirit pour out in our community, our schools, and over our children, and bring about peace in the world. Let there be peace on earth and in our lives today. We all say thank you, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Clara.
Good job. I don't want to stand in.
Judy, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bass.
Present.
Mr. Bilson.
Present.
Mr. Kinsemi.
Present.
Mr. Capizzi.
Here.
Mrs. Dunn. Here. Mr. Cadella. Mr.
Excused,
Petrosi?
sorry.
Mr. Pareto.
Excused.
Mr. Velardo.
Here.
And Mr. Petrosi.
Here.
7 present.
Okay, audience, we have 2 board members on remote. Board members on remote, I'm going to assume it's a yes vote. If it's a no vote, please make sure I hear it. And if there's any change, if I didn't hear it, stop me before the next vote. We'll assume it's a yay unless you otherwise tell me it's an abstention or a nay. All righty, thank you very much. We'll start out. We have a special presentation this evening. Would you like to start that, Mark?
I would. Good evening, everyone. I'm really glad you're here because we are with a student. Oh, thank you. I didn't really need it, but thank you. I'm really glad you're here because there's a special student from Niagara Falls High School with us this evening, and he accomplished something that I think may have only been done, and I'm looking at the coaches, maybe once, twice, Joe? Twice in the history of the Niagara Falls School District. His name is Jaden Crumpler, and I'd like you to welcome me to have Jaden. Would you come up here, please? Jaden Crumpler is the New York State 126-pound wrestling champion in the whole state. The whole state. And what we're going to do in order for him to get this plaque is he's going to have one last grudge match against Mr. Petrosi right now. I'm going to step back and officiate this match. But Jaden, you are an amazing athlete. You're welcome. Jaden, you're welcome. You're also a wonderful student and a wonderful young man. And we are proud you're from Niagara Falls. And you make us proud as Wolverines and proud of the school district, not just because you're the champion wrestler, but because of the good young man you are and the way you conducted your business. And I know what type of shape you had to be in to win the state championship, because it's only been done in the history 2 or 3 times. In your name, it will live in infamy for doing that, so congratulations. I also want to acknowledge 3 coaches that are here with us, and there are probably more, but I want to acknowledge, first of all, Mr. Gincola, who, after taking over for Mr. Martinez, who's retired now, took the program over and took it to a level even higher than Mr. Martinez did, and Izzy had it at a great place. I want to recognize DJ, a teacher at Hyde Park. I want to recognize Coach Egan, Josh Egan, a teacher at Niagara Falls High School, who took it to the next level with his very capable assistant, Josh, Don McCoy. I was thinking of Josh, your son, Don McCoy. So coaches, DJ, Josh, Don, I want you to take a bow too. You are really great.
We are known for a lot of great things in Niagara Falls. We're known for a lot of great sports, but you've made wrestling right up there at the highest level, right at the highest level. I know your insistence on academics, and I know your insistence on sportsmanship, which is most important to this board, to myself, but I also know your teaching of technique, and I'm sure Jaden and your whole team would tell you that you had a big influence. So coaches, your impact is immeasurable. Thank you for doing this, stepping out. Jaden, you're an amazing young man. We have a couple of presentations for you. First, there's your plaque. Secondly, Mr. Contento, our great athletic director. Joe, you want to come up here and maybe present this to him? This is his wrestling singlet. And obviously, I'm not strong enough to even arm wrestle you. But I think that's his wrestling singlet that he won the championship in. Get up here for pictures. Go ahead, Russ. Go ahead. After, come in. Want to let our board members get in there behind? Mike, you want to get in the other end? Nick? Let's bring the two phones so we can have the remote board members in. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Just didn't want them to think I was leaving them out. Thank you. Jaden, anything you guys want to say, Josh?
I do have something.
Good.
Something for Jaden? All right, we'll do it. Let's do it.
Let's hear from Coach McCoy.
Coach Egan.
Coach Egan. You say
I just
hello.
got promoted.
You're done. Go ahead.
Sorry. Jay, can you believe all these people came out to see you? This is crazy. What a good turnout. All right, I do have a couple things because this is a big deal, so we're going to say a couple nice things about Jaden while we can. First of all, he's being recognized for being a state champion. I don't know if it's really sunk in yet. Maybe now that we got this singlet here, it is starting to sink in, but it truly is a great accomplishment. You should be proud. With that being said, it's important to keep things in perspective. Your family's here, your mom's here today. Without them, you wouldn't be where you are. Taking you from youth when you're a little 40-pound wrestler at Power Cats, right? All the way through high school, taking you to off-season tournaments, clinics up and down the East Coast. It's a year-round sport, so don't forget about them. Don't forget about your teachers from Cataract Elementary down the street, LaSalle Prep. We got some Cataract people here. LaSalle Prep, and this year you'll be graduating from Niagara Falls High School, so that is awesome. Don't forget about your teammates. Iron sharpens iron, like we like to say, especially Junior. He's not here today, but most importantly, don't forget about all the work you put in. All right, you don't accomplish this without hard work, without diet, exercise, conditioning, strength training, all of those things, right? Keep that in mind. Don't forget, a lot of work went into this, all right? You don't win a state championship, 6 minutes, 2 points, without that hard work, right? And good coaching, obviously, you know. Some impressive stats. I'm going to have to look at my sheet for this. I can't remember it all. So most importantly, Jaden is a scholar athlete. That is awesome. Scholar athlete. Academics first. There we go. He was 41-1 this year with 23 pins. He's a 3-time Section 6 champion, 2-time All-State wrestler. He was second last year. This year he was a state champion. Also, this year, you guys might not know this, a couple weeks ago he traveled to nationals where he beat several state champions from across the nation, and he was second in the nation. All right, so that's... which has him fielding offers from several colleges and universities, including Michigan State, West Virginia, and Binghamton. He's leaning towards Michigan State, but he is not committed anywhere, but we'll see. The Spartans, yeah. One thing, I'll wrap it up. One thing about Jaden is I've never coached somebody. We've had some great wrestlers, state champions. we've never coached somebody that steps their game up as much as Jaden does for tough competitions. When the pressure's on, he seems to excel. Usually you get high school kids, you have to, get into the psychology of it a lot, but he seems to wrestle better when the competition level is high. A couple examples, we were at the N-Trip tournament this year. He's wrestling this kid from Chautauqua Lake. He's a state champ from Chautauqua Lake in the finals. Goes out there, it's a back and forth match, ends up winning that match, gets named MVP of the tournament out of like 600 kids. Huge win. Then 2 weeks later, we're wrestling Wheatfield at the Section 6 dual meet championships, and Jaden goes out. Don and I are discussing our lineup, and for wrestling, you got to kind of make matchups and figure out, who's their best guys, put our best guys against theirs, and we're trying to figure out who's going to go against their best wrestler. Jaden comes up, he says, put me on Juicy. Juicy's Tremel Matthews, is their best wrestler, right? He goes up 2 weight classes, wrestles this kid, beats him in double overtime, and when you say you couldn't hear a pin drop in that place, everybody was around this match. There was wrestling going on. Everybody was around that match. It was a huge match. Then obviously, state championship, state finals, he ends up winning that match. He's losing in the beginning, comes back. You never really doubted that he was going to win, though. See, there's something that happens. It's like a competitive edge that he has. I don't know. It's a trait. That being said, that competitive nature, you can call it a killer instinct or say that he's a big-time player, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. All I know is you can't coach it. It's a trait that you have. It's instilled in you when you're young, growing up. It's a trait that he has. Use that. Use that competitive nature. So when you're going to school and then you're in the fall, you get your syllabus, step your game up. Get ahead in your academics, right? When you have the opportunity to go out with your teammates or study for your exam. Study for your exam. Step your game up. Use what you learned through the sport to be successful in life. Jaden Crumpler, New York State champ. I think this is going to stay. You keep that. There you go.
Hang on. Okay, Petrozzi can't go to his left. You could take him right down. Who's here with you?
My mom.
Where's Mom?
Right there.
Mom, who else?
My sister Pilar, my sister Gia. My dad and my grandma, they couldn't make it today, but they've also had a huge impact on my career.
So, Mom, I just want to thank you for giving us two. Thank you for letting us have your son. Thank you for letting the coaches coach him. Thank you for allowing this district to have this champion. We appreciate you, Mom. Thank you very much. Sisters? Yeah. Anything you want to say? After that speech by Egan, I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go right now, Egan. Get me somebody. Get me Tony Pareto. I'm ready to go. All right. All right, what do you want to say? You got to say something. That's part of growing up. That's part of maturing. Come on, go.
First, I want to thank, obviously, Coach Egan and Coach McCoy. They've had a good impact in my career. Wouldn't have been able to do it without them the past 4 years. It's just been an honor for them to be my coaches. Also, Giancola, he didn't coach this year, but he started my freshman year, and I think he also had a huge impact in my career, starting off in varsity and stuff. Also, I want to take Derek Zimmerman here, right here. He takes me to a lot of tournaments and stuff. He's like another dad, just like... It's just someone good to have. I want to thank my mom. Obviously, my dad and my grandma couldn't make it, but they've also impacted me since youth, middle school, bring me to tournaments, bring me across the country. Wouldn't have been able to possible to do anything without them. Yeah, thank you.
No, it's yours. Is it his, Joe? We're putting it up in the school. You can take it for a day. Take it for a day. Here, don't leave it. I don't want to put it in my office. They obviously know I didn't wrestle Jalen. They're not going to believe me. Yeah, back in 1980, I took a few people down. Make sure Mr. Contento gets it back.
Well, I must say, that's going to be a tough act to follow. Congratulations. Congratulations, and thank you to everyone that helped him. Thank you. Moving on, letters of communications. I do have one note from Christine Balak, a thank you note, and I'll pass that around. We do not have any speakers this evening. And moving on to recommended actions from the superintendents of schools. 401 and 402 we will take together. 401 is minutes for March 23rd, March of 23, and 402 is the approval of budget transfer number 9. Motion, please. Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Rob. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. 404 is the treasurer's report, received and filed, along with the budget status report. 4.06, personnel report certificated, 1 through 14. Motion, please. Nick, thank you. Rob, a second. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass? Mr. Bilson?
Yes. Yes.
Rob?
Yes.
Mr. Kinsemi?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Show Mrs. Dunn
Oh, stepped out?
stepped out,
Okay.
please.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Report accepted.
Yeah, we'll take that as an automatic yes on those,
So
Judy.
I will abstain from calling on Mr. Bass or
Yeah,
Mr.
because it's, the
Kinsemi.
delay is difficult. Thank you. Again, Mr. Consent.
I'm sorry, that delay was on me. That delay was my fault. I won't be delayed next time.
Okay.
No problem.
Okay, so we're gonna leave the 2 names off, assuming they're yays. You could call them yays, Judy.
Okay.
And then if there's a question, they can just jump in. 4.07, personnel report classified, 1 through 11. Thank you, Rob. Second, Mike. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn is
Stepped
stepped away. Mr.
stepped away.
Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Report accepted.
Thank you. 4.08 and 4.09 we will take together. They are the committee recommendations on special ed and preschool special ed. Motion, please. Thank you, Rob. Second, Nick. Questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. 4.10, short-term contracts. We have Rachel Schneider. We have Ann Kent Kwalendowski. We have Mary Carey, math for Carrie Sino. DNF Travel Transportation along with the Hilton Garden Inn is for the Washington trip. BWI Airport Transportation also for the Washington trip. Thanks, Rob. Second, Mike. Questions? Call a roll, please.
Mr. Bass? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My mistake. Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. 6.01 is approval for a special meeting on May 2nd, 7:15. Thank you, Rob. Second. Did I miss one? I did miss that. I'll go back. 6.01, approval special meeting on May 2nd. Thank you, Nick.
What did you do? You're going to go back.
I'll go back on that. Rob says was the first, Nick was the second. Questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Nick. That 4.11 Head Start and Early Head Start reports. Thanks, Nick. Thank you, Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Report accepted.
Thank you. I'll take 6.02 to 6.04. These are the safety plans. The 6.02 is the approval of the filing of the proposed district code of conduct as amended. 603 is the approval of the proposed comprehensive district-wide safety plan as amended. And 604 is the approval of filing of the building school level safety plans as amended. Please, Rob, second, Nick. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. 6.05 and 6.06 I will take together. The 6.05 is the approval of Area 1 NESBA Director, which happens to be David Lowery. 6.06 is the approval of the election of the Board of BOCES. Those are 1, 2, and 3, 4.
Can we separate those?
Certainly.
6.05 I will take by itself. We sure can. Approval of David Lowery as Area 1 NESBA Director. Motion on that? I did. Well, I don't need a motion taken. I just took them separate. Oh, okay. Thank you. On 6.05, I have a motion. Second? Second, Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes. We good, gentlemen? Your yeas? Thank you. 6.06, approval of the election of the Board of BOCES. And that is, there's 4 members?
3, I believe.
1, 3, and 4. People's names 1, 3, and 4. Motion, please. Thank you, Nick. Second, Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Any other comments?
Okay, thank you. 6.07, the approval of the 23-24 administrative budget for Niagara Orleans BOCES. Nick on the motion?
Move it.
Mike? That was Mr. Consemi on the second. Okay, questions? Call the roll, please.
Calling all the roll.
Call all the names individually, please.
Mr. Bass?
No.
Mr. Bilson?
No.
Mr. Consemi?
Yes. With clarification. First of all, if I may, Mr. Lori,
Yes?
there is no doubt you always represented this district to the highest state. And you've always defended us whenever there's been a problem. And you've always done it, you know, in a very dignified manner. As the representative of the Boone Sport Board of Education, feel I must apologize to you for the comments that Dr. Gutschall said at that meeting. I know he's going on the context of all numbers. He did not lie about the numbers. And I think he could have, in some way, not just pulled one district out. I do not agree with Mr. Gottlieb's behavior, but I do feel I have to vote yes for the budget.
Mr. Capizzi?
No.
Mrs. Dunn?
No.
Mr. Velardo?
Before I vote, I'm going to qualify my vote. I don't think that BOCES takes care of our children the way they should. Some of the courses are not geared towards our kids that are attending certain classes, and I don't think they have the best interests of our students at heart, so I vote no.
And Mr. Petrosi?
No.
Motion defeated.
Thank you. I will take.
May I add a comment?
Certainly.
Okay, you wanted to, I didn't catch that all. You want to make a comment? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You say go ahead?
Sure.
Okay. I want to say this on the record. I will never, ever stand for our students to be insulted. Ever. We represent 1/3 of that budget. Our students don't feel like they're wanted out there. And when you have Clark Godshall make those types of comments, that validates their feelings. Because if that comes from the top, if that comes from the head, it's trickling down into the classrooms. And I don't appreciate the comments. And the fact that he refuses to apologize for them is even more infuriating. And that is why I voted no.
Entered into the minutes.
Thanks, Earl. Anything from anyone else? Okay, thank you. We'll take 6.08 to 6.10 together. These are the procedures for our election. 6.08 is the amendment to the school election procedures and the polling sites. 6.09 is the approval of the resolution regarding the statutory meeting on May 17th. And the 6.10 is the contract between the county and the school district for the machines. Motion by Nick, second by Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's carried.
Thank you. 6.11 is the amendment for the agreement for professional services between us and Aries Transportation. Thanks, Nick.
Second.
Thanks, Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. 6.12 is approval of payment number 4 to MLP Plumbing and Mechanical. Thank you, Rob. Nick, questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Velardo? Yes. And Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. We have a review of our proposed policies for Head Start and Early Head Start. We have one on the table. It's policy number 9001. Need a motion to remove it from the table. Thank you, Nick. Yes, sir. Thanks, Rob. Questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Policy put back on the table.
Thank you. Now we'll take that policy we just took off the table into 7.02 and we shall vote on it. That's policy number 9001. Motion? Nick? Rob? Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bilson?
Yes.
Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Policy accepted.
Appreciate it. Moving on for information and reports, Mr. Laurie, you are up.
Thank you very much. It's great to see everyone. Once again, Jaden and his family, congratulations on a well-deserved award, and we're proud of you, and we're proud of the entire wrestling team and the entire athletic program, Mr. Contento. I saw today were 77 students in the spring sports, which are girls flag football, girls lacrosse, boys and girls track, baseball, softball. I hope I didn't forget one. Already we have 77 scholar athletes, and 2 of those scholar athletes have an average above 90, are playing 2 sports at the same time. So it is not ever lost that those scholar athletes certainly achieve well in school, and 77 just in the spring sports is really something to be very, very proud of across the district. I want to just remind you of a couple of things here. First of all, tomorrow there's a child abuse walk that will take place at Hyde Park Ice Pavilion at 4 o'clock. Judy Martin, one of our great staff members, is coordinating that. We thank Judy for all of her hard work. We had a wonderful time on Saturday watching our Special Olympians perform from Niagara Falls High School. I believe they're all from Niagara Falls High School. They won many first place. They were excited. They were high-fiving. Our Special Olympics team is truly special. I appreciate the teacher coaches who lead them. It was a great sight to see at Niagara University on the Special Olympics. I want to wish the students and staff that are traveling the 28th of this week, I'm losing track of the days, through May 3rd, this Board of Education is sending them to Dallas, Texas. They're competing in the World Robotics Championship. 2 news stations covered that today, and it is great that we're sending 4 teams. To those involved in robotics, from the coaches to the teachers to the parents to the students, good luck, safe travels, and we know you'll represent Niagara Falls School District in the best way possible, and we really appreciate you and your hard work. The hits keep coming for Niagara Falls High School students. Today, Mrs. Velardo informed me that one of the Niagara Falls High School students, her name is Jillian Kratz. She is the recipient of the national chapter of Italian Sons and Daughters Scholarship. They give out 8 across the United States. She was one of 8 to win $20,000 today for her college. Jillian Kratz. From Niagara Falls High School, robotics kids going to Dallas. From LaSalle Prep and Gaskill, Jaden Crumpler from Niagara Falls High School. Saturday between 11 and 2 o'clock, we will have 48 countries represented, and we have almost 300 people signed up to walk the world and accept and appreciate diversity, something that makes our school district strong and proud, and it's going to be a wonderful event. I give the ELL teachers, Mallory Leo, and all of those that were involved a great deal of credit. It's going to be a wonderful event. I want to thank the district art teachers. We are returning to a district art show next Thursday between 5 and 7 at Niagara Falls High School. Fantastic artists from all throughout the district. 77 scholar athletes I mentioned. Also today, I was notified that one of our associates, her name is, I hope I pronounced this correctly, Khadijah Munir, Queenie Munir, am I correct, Maria? She was selected by the Western New York Bilingual Association as the Bilingual Advocate of the Year that helps bilingual students, and she works in the Niagara Falls school districts. And she works at Calphus, Carrie, and she was selected across Western New York for her work with ELL students, and she'll be feted June 2nd at a dinner in with all Western New York ELL providers. But Miss Munir, we thank you, and I know I'll see her on Saturday, and I'll celebrate her there. I would like to call your attention to the upcoming meeting schedule. Our next meeting, it's a little bit odd, but our next meeting is on a Tuesday. It's Tuesday, May 2nd. We will begin at 5:30 with an executive session. However, at 6:30, we will have a public hearing on the school safety plans. At 7 o'clock, we will have a hearing on the budget. The budget is in great shape because of Ms. Holliday and the entire team and the board. Again, you know, no raise in the tax levy, no loss of FTEs, actually adding positions, no programs cut. Certainly, we're not raising the tax levy. We're giving our kids more. And we were able to, through great planning and great insistence upon you board members, we were able to slide all of our ARP, American Rescue Funds people, into this budget and not have one layoff, which is a testament to your foresight, your foreshadowing of that money, and Becky and team's work on keeping the budget set and structured the way it is. Then at 7:15, board members, I know you approved this, but we have to de-scope on 2 of those contracts. If they're not de-scoped, I'm going to pull that resolution and we won't meet. But we have to de-scope 2 groups, I named them for you earlier, to do heating and cooling at Niagara Falls High School, Calphus, Bond, and a few other places. If it's not to our liking, we'll pull back on those resolutions. If not, our next meeting then is on Wednesday. The next meeting is on Wednesday, the 17th. So we're really on a really odd meeting schedule. Tuesday, Wednesday. It's very atypical for this Board of Education. But I want to just reinforce that. We'll put the topics on there. Remember, on the 17th, there's a 7 o'clock voting meeting and then an 8 o'clock statutory meeting. And that statutory meeting is to certify the election results and the school budget. And again, to those that are watching, the hundreds of thousands of viewers who are watching. The 16th of May is the school budget vote at your local polling places. One small change, the polling time is 11 to 8, not noon to 9. That is a full remote day for students. Why? It's for safety reasons. 8 of our 11 locations are used as polling places still, a bit to my chagrin, but we want to make sure that our students are safe. I want to conclude by thanking you, the board, for supporting the personnel and the resolutions and voting your conscience and voting to support our kids. I will make just one brief comment. I believe that the PS2 program at Niagara Falls High School is on its way to being nationally recognized, and that it does a fantastic job getting kids out of school and a warm handoff to their future careers or to college. So I am proud that we are providing what our kids in our school who love to stay in our school need. And I really mean that with great sincerity, and so I thank you for your support of that initiative as we continue to grow that program, because I think it's right on target, and I think the work that the staff, the administrators are doing is completely in line with what Niagara Falls kids need. So I thank you, board, for your support of that and for your push to increase it. Finally, I thought Niagara Falls High School's administrative team did just a superb job sharing their comprehensive school improvement plan. I'm going to conclude with one final thank you, and that's to the district parent committee. Rick and Becky were upstairs. I hope it went well. It went well. They had a parent committee meeting this evening. Their last meeting is on May 30th, but on Friday, March 31st, I saw 600 people having a good time, donating money for our kids' parent groups to the tune of $25,000 for parent groups, all put together by groups of parents who did a magnificent job. And I will make sure that I'm at the meeting on the 30th to thank them. But I want to publicly say to the district parent committee, I think I see one standing in the back. I don't know if they're all here. Thank you, thank you, thank you for all that you did. I would now like to introduce the second place finisher in the wrestling contest. Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's nothing, Tony. No. Thank you very much, members of the board, for your support. As always, I appreciate you and wouldn't want to work in any other school district, so thank you. Good.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to just add one item. Mr. Laurie mentioned that we changed that May 4th Thursday meeting to a Tuesday. And the reason that meeting is changed because the board wasn't able to be here on that evening because the business community, Niagara USA Chamber of Commerce, is recognizing Mr. Laurie for his hard work in workforce development and bringing the trades back to school. And I think that's very important to our community. Saying that, I'm going to go around the table. I'll start with Mr. Villardo. Thank you, sir. Mr. Bilson? Pardon me? Nobody signed up. Thank you. Mr. Capizzi? No. Mrs. Dunn?
Okay. I was in the nail salon. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, boy. Thank God.
But
I got to find out where you go because I could use a buff.
I saw him. No, I didn't see you. Somebody saw him once in the nail salon, so he keeps himself well groomed. But I personally like to congratulate Jaden Crumpler. That's amazing to me, and the coaches for your time and your commitment. It always puts a smile on my face when I hear good things about our school district. I always hear bad things. So when I hear good things, big, small, black, white, whoever they are, it puts a smile on my face. And I thank the teachers for contributing to good things that comes from the community about our schools. Mr. Laurie, congratulations, and thank you for being the great superintendent that you are. and the great board members. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Kinsemi.
I'd like to congratulate you, made this whole district proud. Say thank you. And for my fellow board members, I want you to know I appreciate you letting me attend this meeting this way. And I apologize for not being able to be there with you for the last couple of weeks. I'm on the mend, I guess, to get back opened up. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsemi. Mr. Bass?
I just want to say congratulations to Jaden and the coaching staff and to all our students and the staff. Thank you for your hard work. And let's end the year out on a high note.
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Mr. Pareto? I'm good. You're good? Thank you. I'm sorry. Thank you. I'll be very brief. Jaden and coaches, thank you. Congratulations. Each and every one of you, thank you for coming this evening. We appreciate seeing you. Saying that, may you all have a safe and successful ending to the school year. And unfortunately, I'm going to adjourn this meeting in the memory of people who are no longer with us. We have Robert Glasser, uncle of Judy and Jean Glasser, Mary Ann Jamerson, retired teacher, Sean Spoon, a student at Lockport High School, and Florence Lasky, a retired cook. We're adjourning tonight in the memory of those people. Motion to adjourn, please. Nick? Rob? Call the roll.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.